Okay, good evening, members and also officers, for tonight's meeting of the Community Leadership Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Item number 1 is apologies for absence and substitutions.
Thank you, Chairman. We've received apologies from Councillor Barrett and he's appointed no substitute. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Sorry, Chairman, just for the benefit of members who may be wondering why Keith Simmons isn't here with us this evening. As you know, he's the Council's lead scrutiny officer, and he would normally be the officer here next to the Chairman. Keith's otherwise engaged tonight. He's at one of the Community Governance Review public consultation meetings. So he's at the Sunspot in Jaywick this evening, which is why I'm here on his behalf. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Welcome. Okay, nice to see you. Item 2 is minutes of the last meeting. Can I sign those as a true record? Opposed? Are we all in favour? Thank you. Item number 3 is declarations of interest. Just like to remind councillors to declare any disclosable pecuniary interests and registered interest or non-registrable interest and the nature of it in relation to any item on the agenda. Item 4 is questions on notice pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 38.
Thank you, Chairman. We've received none.
Thank you. And then we're on to item number 5, which is the report of the Assistant Director, work programming, including monitoring of previous recommendations and summary of forthcoming decisions. Mr. Ford.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a familiar report to members that they have at nearly every meeting, though there is one extra aspect to the report on this occasion. So I'll whiz through it as quickly as I can, so members can then get to the important matters of discussing their work programme. I'd just like to remind members, and I'm looking on page 26 of your agenda at the moment, in reference to preparing your work programme for this year ahead for reporting to full council next month for approval. In preparing, coordinating and prioritising your work programme, you need to take into account, and here I'm looking at the first set of bullet points on page 26, so the general role and principles of undertaking the committee's functions, which are set out in Article 6 of the Constitution, the planned work on the preparation of elements of the budget and policy framework as set out in the Council's business plan, the need for any statutory timetables to be met, the wishes of all members of the committee, requests from the Cabinet to carry out reviews, and also any requests from group leaders that might be submitted with Overview and Scrutiny Procedure Rule 8. And in also considering your work programme, this committee's must have regard to the current corporate plan, and the themes of the Council's current corporate plan are pride in our area and services to residents, raising aspirations and creating opportunities, championing our local environment, working with partners to improve quality of life, and promoting the heritage offer of the district and attracting visitors and encouraging them to stay longer, and financial sustainability, got my wrong set of teeth in tonight, apologies, and openness. So they're matters for the committee to take into account when it's thinking of items to include in the work programme.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment on the bits when considering the work programme, I think some of the things, or most of the things which have been mentioned there, is what we've taken into account with our work programme for this year, and also I think when we come to them, I think we've already got those in for new items or ongoing items for the new year. So I'd just like to say well done to everybody and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Chairman. And yes, I mean, what I just read out was just by way of a reminder, really, rather than as any new information for the committee. Further down page 26, it refers to the creation of the scrutiny, the annual scrutiny report for the last municipal year, 2024-25. There's a copy of that before each of your seats, and it's in black and white at the moment, but when it appears at full council in August, it will be in glorious colour. We're not, as officers, we're not expecting members to come up with any comments or suggestions or anything relating to its contents tonight, because you've only literally just received it. So I would ask members to look at it over the next few days, and if you do have any comments or suggestions or alterations or additions or subtractions or anything like that that you would wish to put forward, then if you could email them to Keith Simmons and Katie and to the chairman, because one of the recommendations is that Keith Simmons, in consultation with your chairman and also with the chairman of the other Ovian Scrutiny Committee, is authorised to agree the final contents of the annual report for inclusion in the report that goes to council in a few weeks' time. So I make that request. And also draw attention to Appendix C, which sets out some notes from the committee's site visit to the Anglian water recycling works at Holland Haven, just for your information and future reference. And in doing so, I just make a reminder to the committee that it'll be making a site visit on Tuesday the 19th of August 2025 at 10 a.m. to the Carlos Oil Refinery. I understand from your chairman that the chairman of the council is so anxious to not miss that site visit. He's pitched a tent outside already. And if any member hasn't said that they're going to attend or not attend yet, if you could let Katie know as soon as possible so she can finalise the numbers with the oil refinery administrative staff, and if there are any traditional smokers amongst members of the committee, please could you leave your cigarettes and lighters at home. We don't want you going around the site with them. Sorry, I don't know where I got too close to the... I'm sorry, it's probably me getting too close to the microphone. If I push it back a bit, hopefully that will be better. So, yes.
I'd just like to say about the visit to the Anglian water, which I found really, really interesting, would you believe? And I think that when another opportunity comes up, I would, suggest that all members should really go and have a look, because it's quite a slick operation, and sort of the volume what goes through there. Obviously it's part of our everyday life, isn't it? And I just think they do. Yeah, yeah. So honestly, I found a bit of an eye opener, really. Yeah, yeah. I could do a few quiz questions to see what was the most thing what goes to landfill, but I won't. I'll save that for another day. Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. So I'll now move on to Appendix A, which I've just very briefly touched on. There's only 2 items in that appendix that haven't yet been completed, and they are proposed to be taken forward in the work programme for this coming year. The first one, you Chairman, the Parish and Town Councils one, which began with the first meeting in November, but unfortunately hasn't been able to meet again since, because members will be, I'm sure, well aware that the Director of Planning and Community has basically been consumed 24/7 by overseeing the transfer of the care line service to Amphora at Colchester City Council, and so he's had, unfortunately, he's not had any spare time or capacity to lead that task and finish group forward. But now that the decision has been taken to complete the transition arrangements, which will come into effect on Friday, hopefully that will release some of his time back again to sort of restart that particular working group and hopefully get that work done and finished by the end of this year. So, I'm going to skip Appendix B for the moment and jump to Appendix C, which is on page, starts on page 45. You'll see that the crime and disorder reduction strategy, that's a completed item. Cabinet considered this committee's comments on the strategy at its meeting in April, and you got on page 46 the Assets and Community Safety's formal response to this committee on the crime and disorder strategy, which then went off to full council in May, when it was formally adopted as a strategy document as part of the council's policy framework. On page 47, you'll see the notes from the last meeting of the committee on the 17th of June, when it had a briefing note on the NHS Dental Commission and made some recommendations to the partnerships portfolio holder. The formal response of the portfolio holder to those recommendations is awaited, but I know from conversations with John Fox, who the head of health and community at the council, he's liaising at the moment with the portfolio holder to produce a formal response, which will be published as an executive decision. So hopefully that will be forthcoming in the not too distant future. And then on page 48, you've got the committee's recommendation from its consideration of the community governance review. Cabinet considered the committee's recommendation on Friday of last week. The leader made quite a long formal response, which I'm not going to read out now, and it will be in the cabinet minutes, which will be published by the end of this week. But the last sentence of his response said, "On this basis, I support the recommendation from that committee and seek Cabinet's approval of the increased budget 68,000 for this review." And I'm happy to say that later on in the meeting, when the Cabinet considered the financial outturn report presented by Richard Barrett, the Council's Director of Finance, included within that was a proposal to increase the budget in line with the committee's recommendation, and the Cabinet agreed that. So that is now official. So the CGR budget will be going up in accordance with what the committee recommended. There's one other matter to raise that the committee made by way of recommendations to Cabinet. That's to do with the Council's Crime and Disorder Task and Finish Group, which looked at familial violence and abuse. That was considered by this committee in April, and this committee made 8 recommendations on to Cabinet, and they were considered all at Cabinet on Friday. I shall read out the Assets and Community Safety Portfolio Holders' formal response, which was agreed by Cabinet at that meeting, which is: may I thank the members of the Crime and Disorder Task and Finish Group for their work on an important and interesting topic. I am happy to support the recommendations being made to Cabinet. Following Cabinet's acceptance, I will invite officers to engage with our partners to take action to incorporate the recommendations into our plans and enact them for those matters that are directly within the Council's control. For those matters that lay outside the Council's control, I will work with officers and our partners as to the best way or ways to bring those recommendations to fruition. That was the portfolio holder's formal response, which was formally endorsed by Cabinet on Friday. So that's that for Appendix C.
Sorry, Ian, if I can just come
certainly.
in there, because again, we've had some good responses there for the recommendations we've put in. Task and Finish, I'll just pick out Councillor Doyle, what the work you've done with the Task and Finish group. So, and also this time last year, when we put in our review, we did mention that we would use more of Task and Finish groups along with off-site visits. So there we've said, we've been to certain places and also we've used the Task and Finish groups. So I think, again, we've actually delivered what we said we were going to do. So it's well done to everybody concerned.
Thank you, Chairman. On Appendix D on page 51, just for members to be aware that those are forthcoming items on the Council's corporate business schedule that fall under this committee's remit. And then at this point I shall go back to Appendix B which starts on page 39. So this is a list of items that have been put forward on the draft work programme for the next year. I'll briefly touch on them. I just referred to the Crime and Disorder, Familial Violence Abuse Task and Finish Working Group, and one of the recommendations when the committee considered it in April was that the Task and Finish Working Group should continue and continue to receive updates on this matter during the coming year as further actions are taken by the Cabinet, and also to enable this committee, based on what comes forward from the working group, to make further recommendations to the Cabinet as it deems to be appropriate. The Coastal Communities Unit, there was a hope to get Dr. Emily Murray to this committee, which hasn't materialised during the year that we just completed. So it's been rolled forward as a suggestion onto the work programme. As the same with the joint working with parish and town councils, that's been rolled forward onto the programme with a suggested target date of the 9th of December for the submission of the working group's final report. The same for the Youth Provision Task and Finish Working Group, which has also only been able to meet once so far. Then we got the grant funding by the council and others. So that would be part of this council's annual scrutiny of that part of the cabinet's initial budget proposals, which would be for the 2026-27 financial year. And in addition to that aspect, there's also the sort of looking at where the grants policy is. So there'll be two aspects to it. There'll be the financial side of the grants that have been made and received, and how appropriately they've been used. And also there'll be an opportunity to look at the grants policy itself to see how it's progressed in its first year of operation. Is it working smoothly? Are there further tweaks that could be made to it to make it work better? And especially in the light of the adoption of any recommendations that the committee have made previously on that subject. The next item is to explore joint working with your counterparts on scrutiny panels and committees at Braintree and Colchester councils as we move towards LGR. And early in the new year, we'll get the government's decision as to the final shape of LGR, so we know exactly who we're going to be with. We know 100% certainty that we will be with Colchester. It's almost 100% certain we'll be with Braintree. Whether it's just those three councils merging, or whether we do in fact find ourselves being merged with Uttlesford, which is the county council's proposal that they'll be submitting, or potentially going down the coast and including Morden. That will obviously we'll know when the government makes its decision, having considered all of the submissions that it receives. But for now, we're suggesting that this committee and obviously resources and services start to look at liaising with counterparts at Braintree and Colchester with a view to sort of forming a combined scrutiny approach for scrutinising the shadow authority when it comes into being, and then obviously when that then becomes after vesting day, the actual formally up and running unitary authority. But as I say, that might need to be expanded to include one or two other councils depending on the government's final decision. Then there's the next one is related to that, and an opportunity will be for the committee to review its work programme after the submission date has passed for LGR. And also related, not directly but indirectly to LGR, is obviously the ongoing community governance review, which is, as I mentioned earlier, is where Keith Simmons is tonight at a public consultation event. There are already two committee dates for this committee to look at CGR in its diary. The first is the 20th of October this year, when the first round of public consultation results will be put before this committee for it to come to a view to submit to full council. Full council will then decide which firm proposals it's then going to put before the public in the second round of consultation, and the results of that will come to this committee on the 16th of March for this committee then to make its recommendations as to the final decision this council should take on the community governance review, which will be taken by full council on the 31st of March in next year. And the next item is to do with the crime and disorder reduction strategy, which I mentioned earlier. So there'll be an opportunity for this committee to look at progress after 1 year of operation of the adopted strategy, and that is the last item on Appendix B at the moment. I'd just like to stress that they're all suggestions. The committee is not obliged to follow any or all of them. It's obviously down to the committee to decide tonight whether it wishes to proceed with them. And also, in doing so, I just draw members' attention to the informal meeting that it had on the 22nd of July. And there's a few notes that are on the table in front of you that will reflect back on what I've just said in relation to the work programme. And the final thing that I wish to draw to members' attention are the recommendations on pages 26 and 27. A is that the committee notes the progress with its work programme that it's just completing, the feedback to the committee on the decisions and recommendations it's submitted to Cabinet and the list of forthcoming decisions, and B, to approve its proposed work programme for submission to full council. And then there's the last two recommendations are that the Assistant Director for Corporate Policy and Support be authorised in consultation with the Chairman of this committee to finalise the review of the year 2024-25, which is the first document I touched on this evening, and also at the appropriate point to appoint individual councillors to serve on any task and finish groups that are referenced in the approved work programme. And that's, you'll be pleased to hear, Chairman, that's that for me. Thank you.
Is that all? Is that all there is? Well done. Thank you, Mr. Ford. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
For a point of clarity, when we're looking at the exploration of the joint working group with Braintree and Colchester Scrutiny panels, are you looking to do this as a physical meeting where everyone meets, or are you looking to do this online, or is it too far in advance for you to give consideration to how this is actually working? Because that could be a long way to go for a meeting.
My own personal view is, my own personal view is that we should have it, even if it's just the first meeting, just to sort of meet with them and just sort of get a, bandy a few ideas around, and then after that we could have, Zoom meetings, team meetings. So I think we get the best of both worlds, really. But I think maybe we need to have a just a general chat with them just to see where they're coming from. And then we can formulate a plan going forward. I think the thing is, as a committee, my own personal view is that although I'm in favour of task and finish groups, but as you can see, that's quite a weighty programme there, and it could quite well be that we get to a stage when it needs a bit more than a task and finish group. It could mean a whole committee, to be part of something, and I would guess that, with Braintree and Colchester, that's a classic one, and we should all be there, just to get a feel for it, and then we can take it forward. And it's the same on some of the others, so we get a feel, and then maybe we've got to appoint individual directors. Maybe we do that at a later stage, because we've actually, as Mr. Ford sort of said, there's going to be two breaks really in our work programme, which is going to be October and March. And I think probably October we will get a better view of where LGR is going, so we will know more who we're going to be partnered with. It could be more or less than what we've said. So I think, so I think really we need to be on the ball with that. We need to be on the ball with the task and finish groups and the work programme, because it's quite heavy, so I think we need to be on our game to be able to get the most out of that. And I think then when we have these breaks in October and March, then we really do need dare I say, analyse it, analyse where we are, and analyse our own performance in that. Because we could start to do something, but come October, March, we then find that in actual fact we're going the wrong way. So we shouldn't be afraid of saying, well, hang on, no, we've got this. Let's try a different tact. So it is, as I say, it is going to be. I think it's going to be quite interesting.
Well, it does strike me that if you're not including at least Colchester and Braintree in any decisions making sort of after October, that we really are wasting our time, because anything that we put in policy wise, there has to be the expectation that the new authority is going to follow it through. So therefore, it would only be sensible that anything that we do is done with eyes so that those policies are in position. So when a new unitary comes in, they've got some policies to come off of. Because just doing tendering centred policies after October, in my view, would not be a good idea. Unless, of course, you're looking at something like the coastal communities, because as far as I'm concerned, I don't think that the other three councils have got many coastal areas, have they?
I said, well, Colchester, and someone said, what about Mersey? So I missed Mersey out of the Colchester thing. So they have got a bit of a coastline, not as good as ours, obviously, so yeah, I take your point, and I think that maybe that's some work we can do before October, just to say, and get something down so we know in what direction we're going to go. Yeah, and as I say, we've got the breaks, so we can really have a self-analysis, if you like, at those times. Okay, Mr. Ford, where are we?
Uh, Thank you, Chairman. I would possibly suggest to members that they go through Appendix B item by item with the notes of the informal meeting alongside, and just confirm whether or not they wish to keep that item in the work programme. And then obviously at the end of that process, if there's any others that members wish to add in.
Councillor Ferguson.
With fear of sounding like I'm speaking for the whole group, the whole Appendix B seems eminently sensible to me. Yes, it is quite a big body of work, but bearing in mind the breaks, bearing in mind what's coming in the future, to reinvent this wheel now, I think would be churlish and ridiculous because of the work that's already been put in. And I don't know, and forgive me if anybody else has a thought on this, but I don't know that we need to go through them. I think we just note it and get on with it. I don't know if anybody else wants to go through it line by line. I think, Ian, you've been, it's explicit enough. And it's a movable feast, isn't it? So
Yes.
if something happens in October, up to October, then we can kind of review it and think about where we're going, especially when we know exactly who we're going to be working with. It just doesn't make any sense to me to keep everybody here and drag us through line by line when it's a good document. It does follow the path of travel, and with all due respect, I know that's probably your job to suggest it, Ian, but for me, I think it's pretty clear, and I would propose that we just get on with it as is.
Yeah. Okay. So
I certainly agree to that as well. Absolutely.
should we go through the item on the work programme then? Because we've done it. Normally we would say, yeah, we'll take their recommendation. But this time we've done it slightly different. We've put individual councillors to sort of propose.
I think, Chairman, that what Councillor Ferguson has just moved and Councillor Oxley has just seconded has just kind of overridden that. So we do have a motion on the table. No, I mean there seems to be consensus amongst the members that all items of Appendix B should go forward, so there's no need to go through them individually or have them individually moved and seconded and voted on. I just might want to suggest to Councillors Ferguson and Oxley whether, from the informal meeting notes on the 22nd of July, whether you might want to add in the water quality inquiry, which would basically consist of a site visit to the Brightonsea Harbour Commissioners to examine its application of specialist paint on vessel hulls to prevent barnacle growth, which might be a specialist subject. And there's a few suggestions for the Youth Provision Task and Finish group on how that could develop going forward. And we could incorporate that text into the relevant part of Appendix B under that item. So, subject to members' consideration of those 2 points, you're ready probably to go to a vote, Chairman.
Yeah, just to declare an interest. But I'm aware that they are actually working with the university, and there's a professor from the university who's overseeing it, and somebody is doing one of their studies down there as well. So that again would fit in with the work which we're trying to do with coastal communities. But if we can, as you say, Mr. Ford, if you can get that in somewhere.
If the mover and the seconder are happy to include that, we can add that in. If they're not, then obviously, yeah. And
sorry,
Councillor Doyle.
Councillor Doyle.
Can I just say, under the of Appendix B, where it talks about reviewing the progress made with the adopted crime and disorder strategy and the bit around women violence towards women and girls, would we be able to put within that work plan that we could review the work that's been going on in the areas that we will be working with, just because I think they may have something to offer to that review, and equally so, if they don't, they can learn from us. It just seems a bit silly if we're going to be working with other councils, they may have already done some work around this. So as part of the work plan, can we
definitely,
identify that we just review their policies and work?
Exactly on those lines. That's why we actually suggested doing it that way. Then we can actually, exactly what you said, we can be going down and then suddenly cultures go, we've already done that, and vice versa. Well, we've already done it, So that's good. We can take that on board. Sorry, Bill, did you?
We'll add a few words into Appendix B under that item to reflect that.
Okay, so Councillor Ferguson, would you like to propose it again? So we're absolutely, and then Councillor Oxley will second.
I'd be delighted to propose the work programme, Chairman. Thank you.
And I would be delighted to second it, thank you.
That's probably the best proposal and second we've ever had all year. All those in favour? Unanimous. Unanimous.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, that's that then, Joe.
Is that?
That's that, yes. Yes, I just want, just been prompted, I just wanted to double check that was recommendations A to D that you were moving. Yeah. That's what I thought. Yeah, so that's that, Chair. Can you declare the meeting closed?
Well, I think that thank you for the members, been really good. Thank you, and thank you for the officers. And I think you, Councillor Simmons, sorry, Councillor, Mr. Simmons might be under pressure because we've got efficient and.
I've got to be at Resources and Services
tomorrow. Oh, well done, well done. Yeah, thanks very much, and we'll see what the future holds. Thank you.